Arabic values are Islamic values, but that's not true. The wealth that Arabs have and want to convert to Islam just because of this reason, it's bullocks. They made the petrodollar. They basically sold their souls. This incident of killing of Hussein, I think it's the pivotal point in history of Islam.
In this episode, we have our friend Zain come back after the success he had in season 1. We wanted to do another round of history of Islam, but we took a more broad approach and talk about many different topics.
Yep, fantastic guy. And in this podcast, we talked about the history of Islam, the rise of Islam in the West, and Eastern philosophy, and many other topics which you'd have to listen to find out.
Yep, enjoy.
The Inspire Us Podcast.
All right. So, but you were saying, so what is Sufi? Should we just get into that?
Sure, yeah. So, it's a branch of Islam, right? And they are more esoteric, so more spiritual, more open in theology. Okay. I don't know if you guys are aware of esoteric Christianity. So, the people who have tendencies to move away from mainstream, right? So instead of just sticking with, for example, in case of Islam, instead of just sticking with 5 prayers a day, they do chants like Allahu and others, right? To go into a trance, for example, and feel the reality in from a new perspective, right? So I think this could be a way we can describe Sufism, but definitely in historical context, Sufism, they believe that it started with Prophet Muhammad, because Prophet Muhammad's teaching were not only about discipline, but about spirituality from a different perspective, from a different, which is the Islam, which is now very mainstream, is different than the esoteric teaching of Islam.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So
and because I know Arif, he used to go many times. He used to and do the chanting. He would show me some videos.
Yeah. I have visited some of his gatherings with him.
How was it?
It was amazing. This was my first time. So in Pakistan, we have Sufis, but I never got a chance to visit their gatherings. But over here, there was this white guy. I can't remember his name. But he was leading the prayers mostly. So once they were done with the wajib prayers, like the obligatory prayers, they would sit in a circle and they would chant the names of God, right? And then some other ayats, like other Quranic ayat. So yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, it was a very good experience for me.
Do other Muslims that aren't Sufis look down upon this? And say, you should be doing the 5 prayers, this?
It's a hard call. Some mainstream Muslims definitely are more open in accepting, different branches of Islam. But yeah, definitely there are some strict Muslims as well.
What faction of Islam do you?
I am a Shia. Yeah.
Okay.
And by the way, there is not, so there are different sects within Shia Islam as well, right? So there are 12ers, and I am a 12er, right, who believe in 12 imams after the Prophet. And then there are some 6 imams as well. Basically, they are 6 imams in a sense, like they have same 6 imams as us, but from the 7th onward, they started believing in someone else, right? So I don't know if you guys know Agha Khanis or Ismailis. Yeah, so yeah, they are a minority within Shia Islam. But within Shia Islam, 12ers, 12ers are the mainstream.
Okay. But Shia itself is not very mainstream.
No. So if you, I don't remember the exact number, but I think there are 1.7 billion Muslims now in the world, and as per some research, 25%, 20 to 25% are Shias.
Okay, excuse me if I'm simplifying this, but I'm sure Islam is dominated by Sunni.
Yeah.
And as a Shia Muslim, what hardships do you face, or what kind of,
Yeah.
subjugation do you face, perhaps?
So I can speak about my experience, which comes from the time I have spent in Pakistan. Right? People say that in Pakistan, minorities face hardships. It's kind of true, but Shias in Pakistan are not that subjugated.
Okay.
Yeah, right. So in a sense, like definitely we had some episodes of killings, all right. Like we had episodes of killings of Ahmadis, another subsect, not subsect, another sect of Islam. Some people don't consider them Muslim at all, right?
Wow.
But and then we had some killings of Christians, Hindus. So if you look at Shias from the same lens of subjugation, you won't find that sort of hatred against Shias. What I mean is, like, definitely people look down upon us in Pakistan, but we have our own subculture, right?
Yeah.
So and that subculture has thrived now. So I come from an area called Ancholi, which is very famous in Karachi, and which is predominantly Shia. Right? So that whole society is Shia. So we have our own freedom to practice religion and rituals, and our rituals are very different than rituals of mainstream Islam. Especially, so from tomorrow, we are starting with Muharram. And Muharram is the first month of Islamic calendar. And
Okay.
it is very significant in Shia Islam because one of the main rituals is the commemoration of Hussein's martyrdom, Hussein being grandson of Prophet Muhammad. We can always talk about it. I think we touched upon it in the last
Slightly.
session. Yeah. But so just to explain to you, during this commemoration, we commemorated through practicing some rituals, for example, Azadari and Matam and other things, Majlis, which is like gatherings of Shia Muslims and commemorating, reciting eulogies and stuff in the name of Hussein. So, which usually Sunnis don't do. And coming from the society, the Ancholi society, we have all the freedom in the world to practice
Okay.
that, right? But definitely, we do have some persecutions throughout Pakistan, and those happen every year. But it's still, I think, if you compare it with the persecutions all the minorities face in Pakistan, I think Shia persecution is relatively low
Okay.
now. Yeah,
So
the
it's,
past decade.
okay, so it's very contextual depending on where you are.
Yeah, yeah.
So imagine somewhere like Saudi Arabia.
Yeah,
they
Saudi Arabia
face-
doesn't allow it.
Well, that doesn't allow it.
Doesn't allow what?
Shia rituals.
Really?
Yeah. So you need to understand Saudi version of Islam. It's quite new, right? So even in Sunni Islam, Islam is a spectrum.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the most radical right side of
Mhm.
this spectrum is Saudi Islam. Okay. And they are famously called, they don't like themselves to be called Wahhabi. They call themselves Salafi. But Wahhabis essentially are the people who followed the teachings of Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab. If I'm not mistaken, he was born in 18th century
Yeah.
in Najd. And for example, people don't realize that this word Saudi Arabia, it's nothing. Saud, Arabia was comprised of Hijaz and Najd and other cities like this, right? But Saudi Arabia as a country and as a name was nothing, right? So Saudi comes from Saud, and Saud was So this word Saud comes from Ale Saud, the family of Saud, right? So they had a pact. This Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab and Ale Saud, the family of Saud, had a pact in 18th century that Ale Saud won't intervene in religion, and Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab's family won't intervene in politics. Okay, so right now, Muhammad bin Salman, for example, MBS, and his father and King Faisal and everyone, they come from us. This family, the Saudi family, the Saud family.
Yeah.
That's why this kingdom is called Saudi Arabia, and the religion is Wahhabi religion because they follow Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab. But the thing is, funny thing is, like this country, Saudi Arabia, was never there in the times of Prophet, right? Even the name, right? So they had different cities. Yathrib, which we call Medina now, was a city. Makkah was a city, and this whole region was called Hijaz. And then another region was called Najd, and somehow um, in this span of time, and with the politics involved, now they are called Saudi Arabia, but it is not a legitimate name for that particular region.
Okay, wow. You know, maybe I'm wrong, but I've heard there's some perhaps negative connotations around Wahhabism. Perhaps it's maybe too extreme, or what are your thoughts about that? Could you tell me more?
Sure. Yeah. The thing, because I come from Shia Islam, right?
Yeah.
So maybe my understanding of their religion would be a bit biased or a bit, maybe I would have some prejudices against
Okay.
their interpretation of Islam. But what I believe, and everyone could have their biases and prejudices,
Yeah.
right? But still, what I believe is because they are very new and they believe themselves to be the revivalists, right? They say that we have revived the real Islam. The problem with their version of Islam is it is very unaccepting, and it just pushes away everyone, right? And they believe because they have the purest version of Islam, which I have my own. I don't believe they have the purest version of Islam, but it's still like in their heads they believe that we have the purest version of Islam, and everyone else. For example, people who especially living in subcontinent, especially in India and Pakistan, because we had a lot of influence from Hindu religion as well, because we have been living with Hindus in India for like, I don't know,
Yeah.
centuries now, right? So we have certain rituals who they believe are in direct conflict with the theology of Islam, right? So if you even do like one thing which they believe is against the teachings of Islam, they are very quick to reach to a decision that you are doing something. We call it kufrana, like which is like kafirana, which is like I don't know the word in English, but
Yeah.
yeah, you can say like you are not following the right teachings of Prophet Muhammad, and you are on a wrong path. So
Wow.
they are very judgmental in a sense.
But you know what? I always thought Islam was the first to introduce or really adopt like pluralism. They were very accepting of Jews. They used
Yes.
to flee. And so where did this hostility come from? Why is that?
As a Saudi, they would say we are very open-minded because we are allowing a lot of Israelis right now for business and stuff. But within the realm of Islam, they are just, as you said, like they are just subjugating everyone else, right? It's our way or highway. If there is Islam, it's only Saudi Islam in their heads, right? Other things, other understandings of Islam do not matter for them. But they believe that they are very pluralistic still, because they allow other religions, like especially Western Judeo-Christian civilizations, to come there in Saudi and do businesses with them.
That's
They are fine with
quite
it.
new.
Yeah, it just happened after MBS.
And even now they're trying to, become more, you could say, modern.
Yeah.
I saw a thing where they did a bikini.
Yeah,
I don't know if you saw
yeah,
a bikini suit.
the ramp walk.
Yeah. So with that, they're changing, but it's quite new. Everyone kind of
a
sees
new
Saudi as
phenomenon.
quite of a strict, unaccepting society.
Yeah.
But on that note, what do you think the implications are culturally for Islam if Saudi kind of adopt this Western perhaps or they liberalize and they adopt Western values, let's say, or
Yeah.
they become more Western. So, what do you think the impact?
So you can look at it from two point of views, right? From someone who is living in Saudi Arabia, who has lived all his life being a very close-minded person, right? And they don't want to welcome this westernization, right?
Yeah.
I was in Marriott at Canary Wharf, and there happened to be this lady who works as a doctor here, but who is originally Saudi, and she seemed very practicing. So, and somehow I approached her, and we had a chat. And when I chatted with her, and I just wanted to know her opinion on MBS,
Yeah.
like what he's doing right now, and she was like, we don't like him. She was here in London. She was practicing medicine here. Very well-educated lady, but she was like, as a society, we don't like it because we have our own culture that has thrived in 200, 300 years, right? And now, out of the blue, you are taking these radical measures to please a Western audience, um, and just undermining your own cultural and moral values, right? So this is one point of view. The other point of view of the larger Islamic, or should I say Muslim community, um, again, from Pakistani perspective, I think even Sunni Muslims in Pakistan, they don't like Western influence, because, especially because of the two holy cities we have in Saudi Arabia, Makkah and Medina, right? So uh, not only Sunni Muslims, like Muslims in general, they don't like this westernization of Saudi Arabia, because we believe that preservation of Islamic and Muslim values would be at the brink of collapse if this continues.
Could you tell us what do you think Islamic values are?
Oh,
Is that a hard
so
question?
it's not a hard question, but it's going
a
to
big
take like,
topic.
yeah.
I don't know. I find culture and ideals, it can be quite vague. How do you actually define what values are?
And also the
It's a good
values will
question,
affect the
but-
culture and society.
And they shape, they change over time. They're
It's a
very
broad
dynamic.
question, very broad question, but because the thing is, with the so right now, we are living in, if I'm not mistaken, is it all right?
No, you straight.
Okay.
Is it holding? Yeah.
Yeah. So, if I'm not mistaken, I'm very, very bad with dates, but if I'm not mistaken, 622 AD was the date when Prophet Muhammad, maybe he was born in 622 AD, and after 40 years, he announced Islam, or maybe in 622 AD, he announced Islam. Anyway, but we are like in 15th century of Islam, right? So we have seen 15 centuries, or maybe 14 and a half centuries. And now we are living in nation states, right?
Yeah.
And there is no Khilafah. Like even when Khilafah was there, we had so many other caliphates going on, right? So, so all the cultures, like, racial cultures and ethnic cultures, infused with the Islamic values, right? So if you look at Islamic values right now, you would see Arabic values, because it propagated in Arab, like that region first,
Yeah.
right? So, for example, the cultural dresses we see, which we call Islamic dresses, those are not Islamic dresses; those are Arabic dresses, right? So, if you see, I don't know, for example, people say like date is the most Islamic food, but it is Arabic food, and they didn't have a lot of fruits in Arabia because it was a desert, right? And but they did have dates, and they did have olives and stuff. So we believe all of these things are very Islamic, but I think they are more culturally Arabic than Islamic. So again, coming back to the values, so the values that especially outsiders, right, the people who are not from the realm of Islam, when they see Islamic values, they somehow perceive that Arabic values are Islamic values, but that's not true. That's not true at all right? Because it is such a broad question, but I'll try to answer it anyway. Because even if you look at the life of Prophet, right, during his time and after his time and before his time, Makkah had a lot of clans. You know clans, right?
Yeah.
So the clan he came from, the Banu Hashim clan, their culture was quite different than the large Meccan community. His clan had some, significantly different than larger Meccan community. So what Rasulullah did, what Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, did in his lifetime, the values he was embedded in, because again, like Prophet Muhammad was born in a clan, and he had some values even before he announced Islam as a religion. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, for example, if you are born in your family, right, and you start a political party, even before starting a political party, you had some values, and those values would continue in that political party. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Right. So, in case of Prophet Muhammad, his forefathers had their values, and those values continued because he was, again, very important point. Prophet Muhammad is Bani Ismail. He is in the lineage of Hazrat Ishmael, as you call him. I don't know if you guys are aware of. So
No clue.
Isaac, is Isaac. All right. So Abraham had two sons. All right, Isaac and Ismail. So from Isaac, we continued, and all the Bani Israeli prophets, right? For example, king prophets, for example, all the prophets till Jesus, they are from Isaac's root. And there was no proclaimed prophet from the lineage of Ismail. Okay. So, and Prophet Muhammad is the only proclaimed prophet from the lineage of Ismail. All right. So his forefathers, who all were in the lineage of Abraham through Ismail, they had certain values embedded in them, right? As a family, as a clan, they had certain values in them. And Prophet Muhammad received those values. And then his progeny continued with those values, all right? So because Muslims say that whatever Prophet Muhammad did are the real Islamic values, then if you want to understand Islamic values, you not only need to understand the values Prophet Muhammad propagated, but also his progeny, his lineage. All right.
Okay.
So just to sum it up, and we can always circle back to this question again because it's a broad question, but I would like to answer this. It's going to take some time. But Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his values, if you read about the life of Prophet Muhammad, you would see, I think we touched upon it in the last session, you would see the most important value that he wanted Muslims to have is what you want, what you need others to be done to. It would be hard to translate. As a person, how you want to be treated, you need to treat others in the same manner. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So English is not my first language. So
Oh, you're doing
treat,
amazing.
treat others how you want to be treated.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is universal, I think. All the religions, and again, I believe all the Abrahamic religions are they come from the same root, and they have this very similar moral structure, right? So I think this is in Bible as well. Again, say it. What was that?
Treat others how you want to
How
be
you
treated.
want to be treated. All right.
Yeah.
So I think this is the crux of the value system Prophet Muhammad wanted to execute in Islam, and then it branched out. But yeah, in the core of all the mamlat are like the way I behave to you and the way you behave to me. These social values are, I still think, have very much, yeah. So in the core of these social norms is this idea of treat others in the way you want to be treated.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you think that more than anything else really embodies the set of values of Islam.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, this is.
And you mentioned, because we were talking, you mentioned something interesting, that all monotheistic religions have similar values. And you were talking to me last time on the phone about this guy, Ken Wilber.
Oh, yeah.
And I looked a little bit of his videos. It was interesting. And you mentioned this, what was it, integral theory?
Yeah.
Can you-
Integrative theory.
integrative-
Integral theory.
yeah.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit what it was? I looked at him a little bit, and
Mm.
I was surprised. He seemed a little bit like Eastern
He is.
philosophy,
He-
but
yeah.
so what is?
So he is more influenced by Buddhism, Zen Buddhism.
Mm,
And excuse me. So his understanding of religions is more vast than what I just said, that all the monotheistic religions, or maybe not only monotheistic, but all the Abrahamic religions have similarities in their moral structures. But Ken Wilber says that, if I'm not mistaken, he says that any religion or spiritual practice that has survived for more than 1,000 years on the face of earth, it does have some element of truth embedded in it. Okay. So he takes Buddhism, he takes Jainism, he takes Zen Buddhism, Hinduism, every branch of Eastern spirituality, Middle Eastern Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, and all these branches of religion, and say that they all have some element of truth ingrained in them. All right. Then he expands upon it, and he speaks a lot about like why we should not just ignore a set of ideas or set of beliefs just because they do not align with our set of ideas and set of beliefs. So yeah, in a nutshell, this is what Ken Wilber is. And I think he practices Zen Buddhism. Now he must be like 90 or something.
yeah,
I don't
quite,
know, I
he
don't
looks
know.
he
Yeah.
looks quite old.
Yeah. But amazing guy. Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah, he
sure.
is.
How did you get into him? Were you quite interested by his different approach? Because it seems I wouldn't expect a Muslim to be attracted by those ideas.
Conventionally, I think you're right. But I think I was speaking to a friend and I mentioned this, that I don't know why, but when I came here, and this is my first time abroad, right? When I came here, I realized that people who are very famous back in Pakistan, like Western figures, right? They are not very famous here. Maybe it is because I was always fascinated with spirituality and religion and belief systems and stuff. And Ken Wilber is one of those. Like he is famous in the group I was in, right? Because we were always discussing, set of beliefs and spirituality, and not only him. I mean, like a lot of spiritual figures. For example, Alan Watts.
Mm,
I was used to listen to him all the time. I don't know if you know Eckhart Tolle.
no.
Yeah, The Power of Now he wrote, and some other books as well. But because I think I was Ken Wilber and the figures like him are very intriguing, and I always got fascinated with the people who were born in a totally alien environment, like in States or like in the UK, right? And they somehow got fascinated with Eastern ideologies, and started practicing those, and especially Buddhism, which is an amazing discipline.
Mm.
I think that's how. I was just intrigued by like why a white guy would be so much interested in Eastern ideas.
And you said you were always interested in spirituality.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Why is that? Since a young boy.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So when I was in college, when I was about to start my college, actually, in between my matriculation So the 10th standard in Pakistan, we call it matriculation, right? And then college is college. So 11th standard is
Mhm.
college. So in between my 10th standard and 11th standard, we used to have like 3 to 4 months of gap, right? So I was in that gap, and then our mosque started building a library. Like we had rooms dedicated to the library, but there were not enough books. So a guy came from Saudi actually,
Oh.
right? But he was a Shia, and he was not allowed to build a library or something. But he had a lot of money, right?
Was
So
he not allowed because he was
I don't know.
Shia?
I don't know. So let me retrack it. Right. I can't remember what was the scenario, but yeah, he chose our mosque, and our mosque is one of the largest mosques in Pakistan, Shia mosques in Pakistan, right? And I was used to live very nearby to that. So yeah, and I was used to go to the library, but the library was very small, and he came with a lot of funds, and he was like, I want to bring more books, I want to build a library. And there were some other folks as well, some very experienced librarians and stuff, but I got into um, building of that library. And we built it, not built it, like we procured a lot of books, and then we set up the library. So I spent like 2 to 3 years setting up the library, and that's how I got just books from everywhere.
Wow.
So but it only happened for the 3 years, right? The 3 years I spent there, and afterwards, yeah, I didn't read much. So yeah, I think that was the
But
part of
during
my
those
life.
3 years, you were reading a lot.
A lot, yeah, a lot. Like, yeah, but after that, I think, yeah, I missed the opportunity to be in that state of mind again. So I was very focused in those 3 years, and because it was a mosque library, perhaps that's why I got interested in these topics a lot. And yeah, it is stick with me. It is stuck with me. Yeah.
And in that time, were you a lot studying? So it was a
Yeah.
Muslim library. You were studying the history.
Yeah, predominantly Islamic history.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Did any, like, you read a book and something fascinated you, or it was like a revelation that made you want to read more?
Yeah. So because I can read Quran, but I can't read Arabic in a sense, like that's not my tongue, that's not my language, right? So I was usually reading the translations, right? Translations in Urdu. Urdu is my mother tongue, my language. So there were a lot of Persian and Arabic literature available in that library, like the translation of real literature from Arabic and Persian. And I think I devoured everything in that time. So without any discrimination. So history from, for example, by the way, most of Islamic history, Muslim history, is written by Sunni scholars, right? So Shias didn't do a lot of work when it comes to history. So Tariq Tabri, Tariq Farishta, Tariq means like historical chronicles, right? So these were written by Sunni scholars, and yeah, I was used to read a lot of that without any, uh, yeah, without any discrimination.
I wanted to go back into something because Pakistan is a big Muslim country.
Yeah, 95% Muslim.
Yeah. And we were talking earlier about how there's a little bit of people that associate Arabs and Muslims,
Yeah.
and that they will see Arabs as Muslims and Muslims as Arabs. Do you feel a little bit kind of pushed away by that because you come from a Muslim place, but you're not Arab?
Yeah. So the interesting thing is, again, we are Sayyid. Okay. So the family, the clan I come from, we are Sayyid, which means that we are descendants of Prophet Muhammad, direct descendants of Prophet Muhammad, right? And we did migrations a lot because of the persecution. So
Which persecutions?
a lot of persecutions. So as I was telling you about Hussein's assassination, Hussein's killing,
Mhm.
and what we commemorate in Muharram in this month, coming month. So we are descendants of Hussein. We are through other sons. Okay, so most of his family was killed, but one of his sons survived. His name was Zainul Abidin, same name as my name, Zain. His name was Zain, and the family of Prophet basically had a lot of persecution from the caliphate. Okay, the rulers of that time, and firstly we moved from mainland Hijaz to Iraq, then from Iraq to Iran, greater Persia. Like my family moved to Bukhara. Bukhara is a place now in Uzbekistan, I guess, right? But back in the day, it was part of Persia, part of Iran. And afterwards, we settled for a very brief period of time in Punjab, today's Pakistan, in a place called Uch Sharif. From there, we moved to Delhi. From Delhi, we moved to different parts of UP. I don't know if you guys know this province of India called UP, Uttar Pradesh. It's very big province.
In the north?
Yeah, in the north. And we moved there. And then after the partition, we moved back to what is today Pakistan. So I'm from Karachi, right? So if you trace back the history of my ancestors, we come from Hijaz, which you call Saudi Arabia now. So yeah, but we have traveled a lot. But yeah, settled in Pakistan. Definitely, we are not Arabs. I don't associate myself with any Arab idea. Okay, so I'm proudly from subcontinent. All right, and yes, I believe we still have this misconstrued idea that Islam is all about Arabic culture, right? Especially people outside Arabian Peninsula, they still think, or at least they're trying to. I think they're trying to come out of this understanding now that Islam is about Arabic culture, which it is not. In our head, Islam is a universal understanding of beingness, right? We can talk about it. We can talk about Islamic theology in a bit, but yeah, to answer your question, it's sometimes, yeah, when speaking with people who think who can't speak any Arabic, is not a perfect Muslim, which is, I think, which is absurd, because if Islam came just for Arabian Peninsula, for the people who could speak Arabic, then yeah, no one should have accepted Islam.
It's true, because some people say like, you don't speak Arabic, how do you read the Quran?
Yeah.
You know? But with that being said, do you think then it's a duty for all Muslims to learn Arabic, or know that, you know, that Islam was made for everyone and the translations are fine?
My question to those people who say that you need to learn Arabic to be a good student of Quran, I ask them, like, there are so many Arabic speaking people, Arabic speaking Muslims who know nothing about Quran, right? So I think, and even if you learn Arabic, the exegesis and the interpretation of Quran would be very tricky, because if you see all the people who have interpreted Quran and Hadith, like the sayings of Prophet, they have their difference of opinion, don't they? This is how we separated in sects, right? The sects we have right now, these are because of the exegesis and interpretation of Quran and Hadith. So if only learning Arabic would make you understand Quran in the way it is meant to be understood, then all the Arabic speaking Muslims should converge to certain ideas, the real ideas of Quran, which is not the case. So I don't think that it is imperative for you to learn Arabic to understand Quran. Yeah, but it's not bad to learn Arabic and read Quran without any transcription or translation. Yeah.
But it remains important to dissociate Arabic culture and Islamic culture.
again, I think Islam is a universal idea, right? And Islam is a total submission. Total submission to who? To God. But do you see God? You don't see God. Who do you see? You see the representative of God. Who is the representative of God? Prophet. Once Prophet is gone, who is the representative of God? Some people would say maybe caliph or something, but we don't have any caliphs. Now what? So submission to whom? All right. So the reason I'm making I'm backtracking you to this idea of like what exactly Islam is because like if you don't understand this core point of Islam, which is submission to God, you won't understand anything. So Islam is the total submission to God. God, you won't be able to see God. You can only see representatives of God. We had so many prophets who were representatives of God, but all of them are gone now. Sunni Islam would say after them, Quran and the sayings of Prophet are the um, are the leaders. If they are, then we have a lot of interpretations and different exegesis of this stuff. So which version is the right version that you need to follow, and which one version is the leader of this time? So no one would be able to answer this question, right? I have had these conversations multiple times with multiple scholars. So yeah, so right now Islam has its own dilemma. It's not like Islam has all the answers in the world. We have our own dilemmas as well. So in Shia perspective, after again retracking you, so in Shia Islam's perspective, you need to have total submission to God. You can't see God. Prophet is gone. After Prophet, we believe because Prophet said, after me, Ali is the leader. Ali would be the leader. And Ali was the leader. And after Ali's leadership, his elder son Hassan, then Hussein, then we have our imams. But our 12th imam went into an occultation. We believe that he is still alive, all right? In the same manner that Christians believe that Jesus is alive. The only difference being Christians believe that Jesus is on the third in the third heaven, if I'm not mistaken, or in the fourth heaven. But we believe that our 12th Imam is alive here on the face of earth, but you can't meet him. All right, he's in occultation. So I ask this question sometimes to my Shia friends that, but right now you can't go to the 12th Imam and ask him which version of the interpretation of Quran and Hadith is right and wrong. So you don't have the attestation power right now. So again, Shia Islam is also in a dilemma. Does it make sense?
Yeah. But you see, on that note, I'm aware in Islam, you believe in the divine intervention of Virgin Mary, and, you know, she was able to have a child without contact from a man. But then in Islam, you don't believe in Jesus's divinity. Is that correct?
Explain divinity.
So in Christianity, Jesus is God's son. He is God. You know, and we worship Jesus Christ because it's sort of a representation of God.
Yeah.
Whereas in Islam, you don't believe that. He's just a messenger. He's just another prophet like Abraham or Moses.
Yeah. But in a status above them. Okay. So we don't associate any figure with God. We don't associate Prophet Muhammad. We don't associate Jesus. We don't associate anyone with God. Yeah.
Does Muhammad hold a higher rank than Abraham, Moses, and Jesus?
From everyone. So in Islam, we believe Prophet Muhammad is the last of the messengers, and he is the concealment of prophets, which makes him and his Sharia, you know Sharia, right? The jurisprudence, and we believe that his jurisprudence is the last jurisprudence. There won't be any other jurisprudence after him, right? And in terms of divinity, we believe the mujizat, the miracles of Jesus are the miracles which no other prophet had. All right, we believe this. We believe that he was able to make dead people alive. Right? We believe most of the miracles that Christians believe, we believe in it. The only thing we don't believe in is his association, direct association with God, that you call him God's son. We believe that God having son is not theologically correct, right? And we align with Judaism more on this fact, right? And we have a lot of arguments against Judaism as a religion. I haven't studied it a lot, but yeah. But in terms of theology, we align with Judaism more than Christianity when it comes to theology of God, all right? Because we don't think God is something sitting on the sky, ruling the world. We don't believe in this stuff, right? A lot of Muslims, and this is my understanding from the Shia perspective, but if you would speak with Sunni perspective, I don't know what they believe when it comes to God. But there are some misconstrued thoughts in Sunni Islam. For example, they say that after you die and during the time of resurrection, because everyone would die and then resurrect again in the day of judgment, and in the day of judgment you would be able to see God. We don't think so. We don't believe that you can see God. You can't grasp God. You can't understand the essence of God as humans, right? So that's why we don't think that God has son, or even God. It is very hard to see God from the human perspective. Having son or having daughter or having body or having, I don't know, and even being light, like stuff like this, you can't associate these things with God. So that's how we are not aligned with Christianity on this specific thought.
Okay. I find it quite interesting when you said there was, moral similarities between all these three monotheistic Abrahamic religions. And on that note, because for me personally, I use Christianity as a vehicle just, to connect to God, the creator. And I always wonder, why is there so much tension? Why is there so much dispute? Do you think perhaps these things are, overstated, or they come from a place of, where do you think this division comes from between these three religions? Why do you think it's so hostile at times? I always wonder that, because, that connection with the Most High, it's so pure and it's so personal. Why do we fight over,
Yeah,
when,
I think it is more geopolitical than religious. No, definitely it has element of religious um, extremism. We do have fanatics in every religion, right? Um, especially when it comes to Abrahamic religion, because we have roots in the same region of world, which is Middle East, especially Jerusalem, which is like
yeah, very contested.
yeah, very contested throughout the history. If you look at history of Judaism and Christianity, it was very hostile since the very inception of Christianity. Um, I read a couple of books, if I remember correctly. I don't know if you guys know Reza Islam. He wrote Zealot, I think, where he discusses about the political situation during the time of Jesus Christ, right? And he wrote a lot about the political tensions back then and how political Jesus was himself. Like he was very much against the idea of Essenes. If I'm correct, Essenes were the sect of Judaism that was ruling the Red House back then,
Mhm.
and yeah, so he took some political steps. Like he was like, yeah, you need to stop being boss of everything and considering yourself to be higher than everyone else. Um, we all are children of God, and you need to consider us equals, right? And I think, if I remember correctly, the episode was like he went into the Red House and he just, um, threw the table of where they were collecting taxes or something. Um, so just saying, like, even if you look at Jesus, who, as Muslims, we believe that he was the messenger of peace. Always, he was peaceful. He became very political, and he saw some social injustice happening around him, and he spoke against it, against that social injustice. So whenever you challenge political, um, um, what do you call it?
Like establishment.
Exactly, political establishment, you would face resistance, right? Because those are the people who have power, right? And they won't let go of power. The same thing happened with Prophet Muhammad as well.
Yeah.
When he was in Makkah, he started speaking about uh, the injustices of the privileged ones in Makkah. And if I remember correctly, like something similar happened with him as well. So he definitely he was not persecuted as Jesus was, but still Prophet Muhammad and his allies um, saw a great persecution, saw a great I don't know, injustice against them. So all of these things I think connect with the with these figures, with these prophets speaking against the social injustice and making themselves political. And from that, I think roots the hostility between the religion and the establishment. And then somehow, in case of Christianity and Judaism, because that establishment continued for a bit, for just a bit, and that establishment was Jewish establishment, it continued, and they continued persecuting Christianity, which was a mere sect of Judaism back then, right? So there was an element of hostility between Jews and Christians. But in 300 years' time, when Constantinople converted to Christianity and the Roman religion became Christianity, now was the time when Christians, because they already saw Jews to be their enemies, because they saw a huge persecution of their sect, of their religion. So there is some historical evidence that when they received power, because the state became Christian, the hostility continued. So there was an element of hostility and injustice between Judaism and Christianity. The similar thing happened within Islam as well, right? Initially, Islam was not hostile to the other two religions. Even for a very long period of time, Islam and Christianity didn't have a lot of problems. Islam and Judaism didn't have a lot of problems. When Prophet Muhammad moved to Medina, there were two very famous, if I'm not mistaken, the clans of Aus and Khazraj. Um, those were, if I'm not mistaken, those were Jewish clans, right, living in Medina. So he had a pact with them, and they lived together for some time. But somehow stuff got out of hand, because those clans started uh, started being friendly and passing on some critical information about Islam and about the strategy of Prophet Muhammad to some other enemy clans outside of Medina. So yeah, some stuff happened, and they had a fight, and then they had a battle. Um, on the other hand, Prophet Muhammad had a friendly relationship with the king of Najash, that time Ethiopia, right?
Yeah.
And Ethiopia was a very big, I think, the most largest Christian uh, kingship outside of Roman Empire. All right.
Yeah.
And Prophet Muhammad sent his delegation. The first delegation he sent was sent to Ethiopia. And the Ethiopian king didn't convert to Islam, but he was so welcoming that Prophet Muhammad said that if you wish to continue with your religion, please continue with your religion. I consider you as my friend. And he, as being a prophet, I think he had authority, and he wished him heaven. All right. And the Ethiopian king stayed Christian. So just giving you some examples here, that um, most of the, because we consider all these three religions to be arch nemesis to each other. As religions, they were not, but when you include politics and geopolitical tension, then they become very hostile to each other.
Okay, but on that note, so if we fast forward to today, and in the world of Islam, a lot of these states, there's a lack of secularity.
Mm-hmm.
But don't you think there's some benefit to secularism, or do you think maybe the Islamic world could benefit more from secularism, or what are your thoughts?
Secularism is a strange idea. When it comes in conflict with, as I said, the values of, again, we have not discussed yet what are the values of Islam.
Yeah.
Right. But believe you me, like, secular values could go very against the values of Islam, could go, and they could be in hand to hand with the values of Islam. So it depends how you define secularism. What do you think what secularism is?
To me, put simply, it's the separation of the state from religion.
Okay.
And that is what I believe secularism
The problem
would be.
is Islam doesn't have this idea at all.
Okay.
You can't separate. If you really want to practice Islam, the reason is, I know because I've been friends with Christians since ages now, right? And I understand Christianity is a faith-based religion. Okay? It's not a social contract. It was back then when Roman Catholicism was surviving, and Rome being a kingship, right? Then it was, but not anymore. Like when you separated religion with state, and when you had nation states, and when the idea of secularism, the modern secularism, propagated, Christianity became a faith-based religion. Okay, so it's very personal. But when it comes to Islam, what you would see, it's a social religion, which means like most of the rituals of mainstream Islam are social rituals. Ramadan, right? Eid. You have to get together and you have to do something. Sorry. And so Islam is very much about social norm. For example, we have our own tax collection mechanism, which is called zakat. So if you ignore today's tax collection methods, right, and you start opting for zakat, which is Islamic way of collecting the taxes, you won't be able to survive, right, as a state, as a nation. So, but you need to do it Islamically, like in terms of jurisprudence, you need to collect those taxes if you are an Islamic state. So the secular way of living could infuse with Islam way of living, but you can't if you really want to have Islamic state, you can't separate religion and politics.
So you think secularism would kind of impede or get in the way of practicing Islam as a whole, let's say?
In individual lives, I don't think it would create any problems, right? But again, I'm saying, like, right now in nation states, if you have nation states, you can't have Islamic state. It's all bullocks, like what people believe. And I think we touched upon it in the previous series as well, that people who think that Sharia or jurisprudence should come to UK, they have lost their mind. It can't happen. First of all, you can't execute Islam from the state's perspective if you have nation states. Okay, there is no idea of nations or of ethnic nations, or the nations who is, for example, if you speak same language, and if you want to build a nation state on behalf of the people who speak the same language, there is no idea like this in Islam. There is no racial nation state in Islam, that we come from the same ethnicity and same race and we want to have our own nation state. It doesn't happen like this in Islam. Um, so the people who believe that UK should have a Sharia law, they have lost their mind. It can't happen because UK has its own historical, uh, has its own heritage, which is very Christian, right? Maybe Anglican Christian, but still Christian. And it's a nation state. You can't execute Islamic Sharia or jurisprudence on a nation state. Yeah, this is what I believe.
Okay.
But with that being said, modern, if you look at Islamic states, they're all nation states.
Yes and no.
In what way? Like,
During Prophet Muhammad, there was no nation state.
yeah, but today, they're all, countries.
This is what I. This is why I think those are actually liberal nation states.
And do you
They're
think
not-
that's an impediment to Islam and practicing Islam? The fact that all these countries are
No, in
nation
individual
states?
life, no. This is what I'm saying. Like, the point I'm trying to make is, if you want to live an Islamic, a Muslim life individually in nation states, those nation states could be, for example, UK could be one of those. Pakistan could be the other one. Tunisia could be the other one. Morocco could be the other one, right? If you want to live Islamic life in those nation states, it's possible. But what I'm saying is, you can't execute Islam. You can't say that these nation states are Islamic states, because in the essence of nation state, we have a lot of conflicts with the idea of Islamic state, with the idea of real Islamic state. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on the topic of secularism, we're talking about how now certain Western ideas are coming onto even Saudi and some other countries. Do you feel like there's a danger of some of these countries becoming secular with this Western advancement of culture?
I think they could become more Western. Again, I still don't understand the definition of secularism. So, do you think? All right, let me ask you a question. Do you think China is a secular state?
Yes, but I think we'll get into a topic to ask, for example, because even here we're talking, now in modern day, a lot of even like the USSR was, against religion. Mao China was against religion, but we can say, what is really religious? Like, we can say some of these atheists that say they're not religious are really maybe just having their own religion in some other ways. Like, is communism a religion? Is this climate agenda a religion? COVIDism. There's a quote saying, if you have a hole in your heart as big as God and God doesn't fill it, something else will. So with that being said, going back to secularism, what is secularism? We could say that, China or Russia.
Yeah, Russia.
Yeah.
Is Russia secular or no?
Yeah, I would say yes. But the thing, Russia has a very Christian history.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, what is secularism? I'll give you the example of France, which was, I believe, one of the first secular countries officially. They separated the church and the state, and mostly they banned, for example, in schools, you can't have religious symbols. You can't have the cross, for example. You don't talk about religion. In like public offices and public buildings, you can't have signs of religion. So everything state is separated to religion.
And what came after that? Like, if you remove religion from the set, what follows it? What followed in case of France?
Well, what followed in terms of
Like, when there was
religious
a-
beliefs?
Yeah.
Well, what followed is obviously today there is a downfall of
Yeah.
people being religious.
Yeah, as you said earlier, like, if you have a
But
whole,
also what came, we can talk about, the society and things like this. We can say, maybe things ran more smoothly. The society or government evolved in a certain way. But in terms of just belief and religious and faith, it fell down a lot.
Yeah. And also, I don't know enough about France, to be honest with you. But I would love to understand, like, if let's say, so okay, not only Islam, any myth, right? And myth, again, myth is not a negative connotation, right? You can have myths like fiction, right? And fiction could have pragmatic truth in it. So consider religion to be a myth, right? And it is not going anywhere. It is embedded in your subconscious. So if you remove religion, I'm not saying, I understand what you mean to say here, that why can't Islam have a separation between state and politics? So I think I have cleared it up now that in essence, there is no separation between religion and politics when it comes to Islam, right? Still, because we are living in modern world now, and we have nation states, and those nation states should have a separation between religion and, because it is, I think, it is in the very essence of nation state to be at least secular, if not liberal, right? Otherwise, the institutions of nation states can't thrive, right? So I understand this point, but just to take things a step ahead now, once you remove a myth from a society, right? What follows it? Is it another myth, or would there be a vacuum that can't be filled? What happens next?
Mm.
Because when I look, I'm going to answer myself and then you can give me your opinion. Because when I look the West, I see a vacuum of 200, 300 years that can't be filled. And now the myth has um, evolved from being a religious myth to, I don't know, to a fictional myth. You have, for example, the music you have, all right, or the I don't know, the written fiction you have, the literature, right? Those things are trying to take the place of religious myth. If you look at the phenomena of Harry Potter, for example,
Mm.
right? It became a myth and it stayed with you, at least as a child. Now maybe we have outgrown it. But I don't have a perfect analogy for this, but try to understand what I'm saying. I'm saying, like, if you get rid of a myth which was with people, certain people, for hundred of years, and a revolution happens, and you become totally against the myth, and there is a complete obliteration of religious ideas. What would happen next?
So, but there's a question we can ask is: do we have in humans an innate need to
Yeah.
believe in something bigger?
Yeah.
And if we do, what will happen next is just some new religion that will come in. So let me
And
ask.
that religion could be consumerism. That religion could be anything.
So, for example, do you believe communism is a religion?
Uh, um, so I was listening to this lecture, and this lecture was on Nietzsche. And I have not read Nietzsche a lot, but I listened to this lecture, and it was amazing. Nietzsche says that communism is an extension of Christianity. Because if you look at communism, it speaks about giving power to the powerless, right? Feeding everyone. So the ideas of communism, they derive from Christianity. Christianity came against the powerful, right, in the favor of powerless. Similar with communism. So the real ideas of communism are not in conflict with Christianity at all. yeah, it could become a religion. For example, in China, I'm not saying like a real religion that they have a god and stuff, but the ideas are very religious. They need to follow one leader. You can't challenge him. If I'm not mistaken, in case of China, if this is the case, I don't know. But historically, communism during the time of Stalin, if you see, like, yeah, they
Mm.
become sort of religion.
Even going to China, Mao, and he had that little red book.
Yeah,
You know, it's,
Yeah.
you could say it's a
Yeah.
religious book, and it's true when you look at their societies that it's just like, you know, everyone is equal under this
yeah.
societal structure.
But what do you think of this explanation of Nietzsche that even communism is the extension of Christianity? Do you guys buy this?
I mean, it's interesting. I'm not entirely sure I buy it.
Hmm.
To me, it seems I don't really think I can make that connect. And then, so what is the premise of?
So he says that because Christianity, Jesus spoke a lot about giving power to the powerless, and because Nietzsche was very critical of Christianity,
Yeah,
right? And he was critical of communism as well. If I paraphrase what he said, he literally said that most of the religions are the ideas for losers, and the aristocrats in time of Jesus, aristocrats were the winners, right? So he says that the values of winners are different than the values of losers. Values of winners are the Greco-Roman philosophies, and values of losers are the religions. Does it make sense? Right? Then he says that communism is also is the value for losers.
But what do you mean, like losers, people who
The
are
people,
lost and like
yeah,
that are
underprivileged underdogs of a society.
and
Yeah.
winners, the elites, and
Yes.
the ones who are
Yeah.
higher up in power.
Yeah. So he says that religion is not for them, because religion gives hope generally to the underdog of the society, the underprivileged ones, right? And I think, yeah, I don't agree with Nietzsche, but I'm saying like it makes sense if you look at it from the.
I guess perhaps my issue with that is that trait unique to Christianity? Couldn't you say that? How does that directly derive from Christianity? Is what I'm saying. Couldn't people inherently just? Isn't this an inherent human thing to just empathize with and focus on the common good of the people and an egalitarian society? Isn't that sort of why is that inherent to just Christianity? Isn't it just a natural human,
If you
thought?
if you look at Western civilization in general, it has both influences. Okay. For example, right now, if you go to Wall Street, right, or if you go to Moorgate here,
Yeah,
the people who work in finance,
yeah,
unfortunately, like me,
yeah,
so the people who want to, you know, even if they are not from that elite background, that aristocratic background, but they really want to go and jump the class, right? If they come from upper mid or maybe middle class family, and if they want to go into the upper middle class family or class, or become elite someday and win big, their values become very different than the people, for example, who are um, in politics right now. Politics means like who are in activism right now. All right. So activists want to speak about the poor. They want to speak about the underprivileged. So they opt for the similar value system as of Christianity. If you look at the saints of the past, if you look at the prophets of the past, you would see that they were always championing about the poor. But the aristocrats, the Greco-Roman aristocrats, they didn't give shit about poor, right? They had their own value system. They were mocking them. They were not very enthusiastic about pulling someone out of dirt, pulling someone out of poverty. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
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 So essentially,
just to sum it up, what I think is Western civilization has, so this coin of Western civilization has two sides. One side is Christian side, which is about helping the underprivileged, helping the deprived, and the other side is Greco-Roman. Look at the elites of America now. I'm not saying all of them, but if you generally, if you look at them, I think they have left the Christian values behind, way behind. They are not living by Christian values. Even right now, what's happening in Gaza, the support of, whatever is happening. I think the people in the institutions of power, they follow Greco-Roman philosophies more than Christian philosophy or Christian way of life.
Okay. That's interesting. And, I wanted to divert a bit and just wanted
Sure.
to ask you.
Yeah, please do. I think, yeah.
No, I just wanted to ask you about, we were talking about nation states earlier. And in the 20th century, perhaps you could say countries like Syria, Egypt, Iraq, they were the centers of the Islamic world. They were the cultural hubs of Islam. I mean, the Muslim Brotherhood came out of Egypt. A lot of, there were reference points. Now these countries are in somewhat turmoil, let's say. And I think this power has now shifted to the Gulf states. And the Gulf states are cooperating quite a lot with the West. I know on the surface it might appear that they're very anti-Western, but beneath the scenes they're essentially cooperating with the West. I think even UAE and Qatar, they cooperate with Israeli intelligence systems, and there's mutual benefits to their partnership. Do you think this shift away from the 20th century powerhouses such as Syria and Egypt, and it's now going to the Gulf states, what implications do you think that has, in the Muslim world? What do you think? What do you think about it going forward? Do you think this weakens
What?
Weakens the Islamic world, if that makes sense?
It weakens the Islamic world substantially. Yeah, it does. Again, this term of, the Islamic world, I don't abide by it because
Okay.
there is nothing like Islamic world.
Yeah.
Right. There are nation states who are competing for their own interests.
Yeah.
I think the only significant institution we have of this Muslim world is OIC, right? So we have 54 nation states who claim to be Islamic. But I don't think there is one Islamic world anymore. So UAE being in bed with Western Western countries, and Saudi Arabia being friends with Western countries, it helps them to prosper, to thrive. And I think every country has its own way of, being more powerful on the stage of world. So I don't think any one country or any block of countries is representing Islam right now.
Okay.
So saying that because Syria or Iraq or Libya are in the turmoil right now and are not stable enough makes Islamic world weak. I don't think that's the case, because even when they were very powerful, all of them were not on the same page on everything, right? So Islamic world, I don't think like being UAE very powerful right now makes Islamic world weakened. But Muslims in general, it does substantially weaken the Muslim stance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know what else I heard? Someone said, the oil in the Gulf states, it was seen as a blessing, from Allah because it would be able to prosper Islamic society. Would you perhaps say, empirically looking at it, this was false and it didn't actually benefit? Because I think this oil has caused a lot of trouble.
Yeah. But who said that was a blessing from Allah?
I heard it in a podcast. I think, was it Jihad? I'm not sure who said
Yeah.
it, but I read somewhere that this was it was perceived as this blessing from Allah, in the home of, Islam, Medina, Mecca, and this oil was a blessing. And, just if you...
I don't think I buy it.
Okay.
Yeah, as you said, as you've explained yourself. So it has caused more problem than, blessings. So...
What problems do you think it created?
Right now, most of the... So if you only think of UAE and Saudi Arabia being the states who have got the blessings of oil, definitely they have prospered. But what about other Muslims? So it means if we look at that argument, so it means like Allah was only trying to bless the Muslims of these states, and other Muslims were not that much worthy of getting the blessings. So it doesn't make sense in my head. Like if only Arabs were worthy of getting blessings, then maybe only them are the real Muslims, right? So what about North African Muslims? What about Muslims from subcontinent? Is Allah not pleased with them? So I don't think I agree with this argument.
Okay. And could I ask you about your relationship with Islam, and if you've had any troubles or any things any parts of Islam you perhaps might not have agreed with? Has your faith always been consistent, this steady thing?
No.
Or is it fluctuating? Could you tell us about it?
It always fluctuates, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. I think theology-wise, because I think I have done sufficient research. I have some well-rooted ideas when it comes to theology. But discipline itself, I don't think I'm a very well-disciplined Muslim. I'm trying to be, hopefully one day. But your faith evolves with your research, with your understanding of things.
You think that's what drove you into theology,
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
You think you just had as time goes on, as you read more, as you study more, your relationship and your faith has just increased? You've never had any times where you maybe perhaps stepped away, or you might
stepped away
as in your faith has weakened? There's nothing that you stumbled across that made you lose faith?
There was a time, I think. There was a time in my early teens. I think, I stumbled upon a few things, but with the span of time and with the time I have spent on researching especially on theology, I think it has solidified my belief.
Mhm.
Yeah. But yeah,
It has only grown stronger.
I think faith in essence needs to be strong.
Okay.
Yeah, belief. I think this is the definition of faith. And as I was saying, like if you...
So maybe strong is not even the right word. There just
it
needs
is not.
to be,
It doesn't feel right.
It needs to be complete, 100%. And even if it's 99%, it's not fully faith. Would you agree with that?
It's hard to explain. For example, I have come to the conclusion that I'm agnostic in this sense, right? I have come to the conclusion that human mind is not capable of understanding God, right? So you can only see God through his attributes, right? So so I won't delve a lot into understanding the essence of God anymore, because that chapter for me is over, right? No one, I don't know, like no human could understand what God is. It's beyond our comprehension level, right? But what we can do really is that we can look at the attributes of God and see the goodness in it, right? And I have a faith that there is goodness in believing in God because it drives you. You don't have to have CCTVs all everywhere, right? To I don't know, to see if someone is doing good or bad. If the person has the belief that God is watching me, or God, or the universe, let's say the universe is keeping account. So if on societal level, if a society believes that there is um, an intelligent power, for example, that keeps the count, then the society becomes more accountable for their actions, right? So this idea of God is beautiful, I think, because if you remove them, if you remove the idea of God, then what happens is you need to, as a state, you need to police everything because no one believes that anything is watching him, right? So then, yeah, there would be CCTVs everywhere, um, yeah, invigilating everything. This is what I believe. Yeah, faith is important.
Yeah.
I can imagine. And
Mm.
this is my challenge with faith is that, you know, when someone perhaps challenges you on your faith, it's hard to make completely rational arguments. But I also think that's the beauty in faith is that, and God, is that it supersedes rationality, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sometimes it does.
Mm.
Yeah, sometimes it becomes very hard to explain your relationship with your faith.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and I think it is very hard for us. So in my case, I think metaphors mean a lot, right? For example, if someone would ask me why why you believe in God, if I would start a debate in giving in explaining them through the rational lens, why there must be an intelligent power that is running the world and stuff like that, it becomes very hard. But I think it is very easy when we talk about a metaphor or an analogy. In my case, this personality, Hussein, is a metaphor because what he did, he sacrificed his life, he sacrificed his position, he sacrificed his family just for the sake of God. And I would suggest both of you to read about this sacrifice of Hussein, which happened on 10th of Muharram, like just 10 days from now, we would have the commemoration of martyrdom of Hussein,
Oh, wow.
right? I don't know if you guys know Karbala.
No, I
There's
don't.
this place in Iraq, right? So the yeah, it's one of the most significant gatherings in world. Even if you'd Google it, even if you'd Google the list of most peaceful gatherings, largest peaceful gatherings in world, out of those 20, I think 16, 17 are for Hussein. So 50 million people gather. Yeah. So yeah, but no one talks about it, which is again very sad.
Can you explain because
Yeah.
the idea of sacrifice is very important
Yeah.
in many religions.
Yeah.
So what is the story behind his sacrifice?
Yeah. So as I was saying, like this idea of sacrifice, I think encapsulates the presence of God. Because no, so for example, if I believe in something and if I am willing to sacrifice everything in that belief needs to have some, weight in it. In case of Hussein, he is the grandson of Prophet Muhammad. I think 61st year after Hijrah. Like we count our Islamic calendar in terms of, we call it Hijri. So after Prophet Muhammad migrated from Makkah to Medina, we count that the first year of Hijrah, right? And right now, I think we are in 1446, 47 Hijrah. But 61st year after Hijrah, Hussein, it's a long story, but let me just quickly sum it up. So Hussein is grandson of Prophet Muhammad, son of Ali and Fatima. Fatima being the daughter of Prophet Muhammad, Ali being Prophet Muhammad's cousin and his son-in-law. So they had two sons, Fatima and Ali. The first one was Hassan. The second one was Hussein. Um, when Ali was martyred, Ali became the caliph, by the way, the fourth caliph in Islam, and he was martyred in a mosque. And when he was martyred, for the 6 months, for the initial 6 months, Hassan became caliph, and then after him, his rival, who was the rival of Ali as well, his name was Mawiya. Mawiya became caliph. All right, and they so Mawiya and his clan, um, they were based in Syria, today's Syria, and Ali and his family was based in between Medina and Iraq, right? Arab and Hijaz and Iraq. So after the death of Hassan, Hussein took charge of the Shia Islam, all right? Islam in general, but especially for Shias, right? But the Khalifa was Mawiya. Mawiya's son Yazid became the caliph, all right? Yazid wanted, and he was a horrible leader. He was openly drinking wine, which is haram, which is prohibited in Islam. He was allowing all the prohibited stuff in his castle, which was in Syria, and he was basically undermining all the Islamic values. All right, but Mawiya transferred the power from him to Yazid on the deathbed. Yazid sent his delegation to Hussein. He asked Hussein to give bay'ah, the Pledge of Allegiance, to himself. Hussein said, no, I can't do it. You are undermining everything Islam meant for. You are undermining my grandfather's values and what he preached. I can't give Pledge of Allegiance to you. So he said, then I will kill you. Somehow Hussein was able, and his family was able to migrate again from Medina to Makkah. He went there to perform Hajj. You know what Hajj is, right?
He's going to Mecca.
Yeah. And then Hussein was followed by Yazid's mercenaries. And even before finishing up his Hajj, Hussein had to leave Makkah. There was another town in Iraq, today's Iraq. It is called Kufa. The people of Kufa invited Hussein to come there so that they could fight alongside Hussein against Yazid. So, considering this, Hussein moved with his family. Some people say that there were 72 people, right? But the figure is around 120 something. Along with a few friends and with his family, he started he started migrating towards Kufa. And it took him around, because definitely back in the day they didn't have cars and stuff, so they moved slowly from Makkah towards Kufa. When he was about to reach Kufa, Yazid's army captured him. Basically, they didn't make him captives just now, but they encircled Hussein and his family. So the area where they encircled him is called Karbala. Okay, so Karbala is the place where they have Hussein's tomb now. Hussein and his brother and his family. So they encircled him on the 3rd of Muharram, so 3 days from now, right? Um, they started having discussions. So Yazid was sending his delegations uh, for Hussein. Hussein was the most important person back then because he was the grandson of Prophet Muhammad, son of Ali. He was, Yazid needed his allegiance. Otherwise, he would not be able to um, proclaim his sovereignty over Islam, over the caliphate, right? So he was pushing Hussein to give the allegiance, pledge the allegiance, and Hussein kept saying, "No, I can't do it." Um, on the 7th of Muharram, now the tragedy begins, right? On the 7th of Muharram, and bear in mind that Hussein was along with his family in this. And by the way, if you have you guys gone to Iraq by any chance?
No.
In this time of year, Iraq is bubbling right
Have you
now.
been?
No, hopefully I will go this year. I had a plan, but I didn't. But my family have been multiple times. And my cousins right now, a few of them are in Karbala for this occasion. Um, but yeah, the temperature in Iraq, it gets up to 45 easy, all right? It's very hot, very, very hot. I don't know, Euphrates, the river, Euphrates.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there are two main rivers in Iraq. One of them is Euphrates. In Arabic we call it Furat, in Urdu as well. So Karbala is on a branch of Furat. Um, we call it Neher Furat, right? So anyway, but he was at this bank of Furat, and they encircled him. They stopped providing water for the family and himself, the army of Yazid, right? And from 7th of Muharram till 10th of Muharram, Hussein and his family didn't have anything to eat or to drink. Okay.
Wow.
On the 10th of Muharram, uh, from the early morning prayer, we call it Fajr, right? From the early morning prayer, they started killing them one by one. Okay. So the tragedy was around noon or maybe afternoon, when everyone was killed. Basically, there were like 20-25 friends of Hussein who were killed. Then one by one, all the family members, from 17 years old to 32 years old to 18 years old, right? Or all the males basically were killed. They go to the battle one by one. They fight and they were killed. In the afternoon, when everyone was killed, there was a six month old baby of Hussein. Again, they didn't have
When you
water.
say they went to the battle, 'cause you
Yeah.
said they were encircled.
Yeah,
So were they just at one point they were going out, say we have to fight them?
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So till the night of 9th of Muharram, they had a lot of discussions with Yazid, right? The delegations of Yazid. Yazid wanted him to pledge allegiance, and Hussein was not. Hussein was like, I'm not going to pledge allegiance. If you want me to, if you want to remove me from the soil of your caliphate, just remove me. Just let me go to India. So he said it like, just let me go to India. Just let me go to somewhere where Islam is not, right? Where your caliphate is not. I will go there. I would live there, but I won't pledge allegiance to you. All right. But from the 10th Muharram's morning, they started. So yeah, every male of the family and the friend and the friends, they went to the battleground and got killed.
Mm.
Uh, we have records of those killings, which are very sad, right? And we commemorate those um, martyrs. But one of the most tragic moments of that day was the killing of a 6 months old son of Hussein. So, because they didn't have water for like 3 days, um, the child was, just being horrible. He didn't have water, he didn't have anything to feed him. He took him to the battle, asking for water for the 6 months old, and uh, one of the army men from Yazid's army shot an arrow and killed the baby, 6 months old. Okay.
Wow.
Then Hussein was killed. Um, Hussein had a brilliant fight, but he was killed around 4 p.m. or something. Uh, when he was killed, only one male member, Zainul Abidin, his name was, as I mentioned earlier, only one son of Hussein survived, and they were all ladies of the camp, ladies of the family. And bear in mind, this is the family of Prophet Muhammad, right? And the people who are killing them are Muslims, right? So once Hussein was killed, they captivated all the women of the family and the only male. They made them captives and they took them on foot from Iraq to Syria,
Wow.
where the Yazid's castle was.
Mm.
They took them to Syria. In this journey, a lot of kids were killed throughout the journey. When they reached there, Yazid made them captive for a few days and then let them go. So the historical chronicles that we have of that incident are one of the most, tragic chronicles. Interesting thing is, all of this happened to the household of Prophet Muhammad by his followers,
Yeah. That's
by
almost the
Muslims.
craziest part. And as a Muslim, I wonder, how does that make you feel, and what does that tell you about humans and people who follow religion, that people who call themselves Muslim then, maybe, I guess, for power, would go and kill the very
Yeah.
prophet that is at the foundation of their religion?
Yeah, it makes very hard to explain. I don't know, like Muslims who did this, especially this act. You can't say that they were not Muslims because they did it. They were Muslims,
Mm.
right? And then they did it. And Prophet Muhammad was with them like 50 years before, right? So within 50 years, not Islam, but Muslims went so low, right? They fell so low from grace that they killed one of the grandsons of the Prophet. And not only him, his older brother, Hassan, was poisoned as well, right? And their father, Ali, was killed in the mosque. And all of this happened,
And that was also by
Muslims. Yeah. So yeah, it makes very hard to sometimes it makes very hard to support Muslims in um, yeah, in episodes like these. But coming from a Sayyid family myself, right? No imams, like imams after Hussein and Hassan, they didn't criticize Muslims. So that's why we just need to shut up, right? We can't say, because basically Islam is something very close to us, right? And the people who accept Islam as their religion and behave strangely, um, still they call themselves Muslims. So we can't say anything bad about them. But yeah, definitely in Karbala, especially, people from the realm of Muslims did something very horrible. Um, yeah, yeah. This is this incident of Karbala. This incident of killing of Hussein. I think it's the pivotal point
Mm.
in history of Islam,
Mm.
Wow.
which says a lot. Which says a lot. Yeah.
And even now that it's a celebration, it's an event that now unites
It does.
Muslims?
Yeah. Mostly, yeah, Muslims from all the facets of Islam, but especially Shia Muslims.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why especially Shia Muslims?
They took it personally, I think.
Mm.
It's a personal thing for us. Maybe because most of the Shia Muslims are, not most of the Shia Muslims, but most of the Sayyids, the people who come from the family of Prophet, 80 to 90% are Shia. Um, and yeah, definitely we took it personally. Like our forefathers took it personally, because if someone so close to Prophet Muhammad was killed like this by the hands of Muslims, um, we thought this was, yeah, it explains a lot about the, I don't know, I can't explain it. But yeah, it was the most tragic moment in the history of Islam.
But personally, what do you, as an individual, take from this moment?
Yeah, it is very emotional for me, first of all. But I think I started explaining this because I take the killing of Hussein is as metaphorical as well. Because I can say that if someone could, and not only one person, but the whole family, right, from Ali to Hussein and then other sons as well, if they stood so strongly upon the idea of God, an idea of goodness um, in Islam, if they stood in that, stood firmly on that, and they sacrificed everything, especially Hussein, because he sacrificed everything within one day, um, then that idea must be true. Yeah. So yeah, I think this is very metaphorical as well, in especially in our language. Whenever in Urdu language, especially in poetry, whenever we try to explain sacrifice and steadfastness, we use Hussein as a metaphor, right? Because he stood fast, he stood his ground. Um, but yeah, so when in my understanding, if I want to, why should I believe in God, right? If I ask this question to myself, why should I believe in God? I instantly answer myself that if someone believes in something in a way that they would let sacrifice everything they have, right, that must have an element of truth embedded in it.
Okay. I might be diverting a bit, but do you think there's a distinction between belief and faith?
There is, yeah, definitely.
How would you make that distinction?
I think belief, perhaps belief is a system, right? And faith is more personal. Belief could be like, as a Muslim, we have a belief that Quran is the ultimate book, right? But I could have a faith on certain aspects of Quran, which could be different than the general belief. So I think faith is more personal, because we can't explain faith. But belief as a system which is in throughout, like which is throughout the society, which is throughout the community, it is easier to discuss belief.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what I think. Faith is more personal, I think.
No, I'd agree with that as well.
Yeah.
So I find it hard to make that distinction myself, and I consider myself quite faithful as well. And it's such a personal experience,
Yeah.
And as you go through life, it develops, it morphs, and yeah, it's hard to,
Yeah.
share with someone your faith or why you're so faithful.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, but I think you can discuss about beliefs.
yeah,
It is easy, because I think beliefs are more surface level, and then faith are more deep.
yeah. No, I'd agree with that.
And I wanted to ask, so, you know, we talked about how, Islam had its ups and downs, and 1.7 billion people now. Maybe I don't know if the statistics, I don't know if it's a growing number, but do you feel like Islam today is becoming more popular?
It is indeed, at least in West. I see a lot of people converting and coming up with testimonials saying that they because I think the good part of Islam is because it gives you a holistic view, right? It does not only give you an idea of God and just some disciplines of prayers, but it gives you um, an idea of, for example, how to live your life, right? What should be your day-to-day activities. So it makes life easier for the people who are lost, who doesn't have anything. And right now, life in the West, I think it is a bit loose in this sense.
Yeah,
right?
I guess you could say loose.
Yeah, yeah, and individualistic as well. So for example, morally, the good and evil is very loose, and it could evolve uh, with time. What was good and bad 20 years ago in the West is not good or bad right now, right? But in Islam, because it adheres with certain value system, it gives more stability to a mind that is looking for stability.
So you think Islam could perhaps be an anchor towards this perception of good and bad, and the rise of it could be a positive in the West?
I think we'll see. We'll see how it turns out. But yeah, I definitely believe that Islam, as you said, like it anchors you because the value system again, like it has stayed stagnant for 1400 years, right? What was good and what was bad uh, back then, we still consider good and bad. And again, credit goes to Hussein because he said like, yeah, so you are right now gambling in your castle. You are doing zana, which is like adultery in your castle. He said all of this stuff to Yazid, right? And he was the caliph at the time. And Hussein was like, you can't continue like this. It can't happen because you are just, ruining the whole value system. And yeah, so the value system is in place right now in Islam, in my opinion, because of Hussein's sacrifice.
Okay.
Yeah, and it could help a soul which is searching for, something to adhere with.
Meaning or
Yeah,
purpose.
yeah.
But this idea of routine and that it gives your life structure is something really interesting. I had one of Abdullahi's friend, when he came to visit, he asked me, so, like, what's it like not to pray 5 times a day? And I was kind of taken aback by that question. It was for me, such a foreign, strange question. But he was very serious. He said, I've been praying for so long, 5
Yeah.
times a day. I don't know what it's like. Like, he really wanted
Good
to
for him.
get this insight. And
Yeah.
for me, my reality is so normal. Even I didn't know how to explain it to him.
Why did he ask you this?
I don't remember how the conversation came up. Maybe we were just speaking with him.
Did he think of you as a practicing something?
No, because I told him that I didn't, I wasn't
Yeah.
praying. So 5 times a day. So like a Muslim. So
Yeah.
he was intrigued by that.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
sometimes they're intrigued by such a, things
Trivial
that
things,
you I
Not
don't know if it's trivial,
yeah,
but
no, I take it back. Not
but
trivial.
so some things that you wouldn't expect.
Yeah, trivial for you maybe,
Yeah.
or trivial for anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But with that being said, yeah, so you think Islam is becoming more popular in the West?
Yeah.
We're seeing it. I saw even this one video of a church that had been bought and had been turned into a mosque.
Oh, so many churches were bought, and that's the best part about Islam, I think, because in Islam you can't even if you are in the middle of war, right? You can't um, sabotage church or synagogue. It is not allowed. It is not permissible at all. It is the most prohibited, one of the most prohibited things in Islam. You can't burn trees because back in the day um, it was a thing. Like whenever there was a clash or a battle, the winning party would go in, loot the booty, and then would take the what do you call it? Would go and burn the trees um, and sabotage the religious buildings, right? So it could be a synagogue or it could be a church, but Islam prohibited it. They said you can't kill the captives, you can't burn trees, you can't damage the religious property. What you can do is, if they allow you to turn that into the faith building, so you can pray with them. So as being a Muslim, we can pray in church, we can pray in synagogues.
Okay.
And it's becoming more popular in the West. But do you think, so we established Sharia law, you think wouldn't work here? But do you think there's a push and a want from general Muslims to make these Western countries Muslim?
I think there is definitely a cultural infusion because of all the immigration happening,
Yeah.
right? So people from anywhere who would go anywhere, they would bring their own culture, right? So definitely, if there is, a surge in immigration from the countries like, I don't know, from Pakistan, right? We come with our own culture, and definitely our culture has some element of Muslimness in it. So we bring that culture here. Similarly, I think from Tunisia, when immigration happened, or North Africa generally, you brought your own culture to European
To
countries,
France.
right? Haven't been to France. I would love to. I would definitely.
Well, you should
But
come quick because
one
now
day.
there's they call it the extreme right is coming to power.
So would they not allow us to visit France?
We'll see
I
what
don't
happens.
think-
But I mean, the leader of that party who's gonna probably run for president in 2027 says that when she comes to power, she will ban the hijab in France.
Oh,
Wow.
So and you said this, that do you think it would be a good thing in the West that Islam comes, but something that might happen is now there's a big pushback that's
Yeah.
happening against Islam,
yeah.
and conflict might happen.
Clash of civilizations.
But do you know what I wanted to kind of highlight is that, there's this viral clip. I think he's an English lad, or perhaps he's from the UK,
Mm.
and he states how he's now become Muslim.
Mm.
And one of the reasons he gave, I don't mean to dismiss or belittle his experience. I don't know anything about his experience of Islam or how he's, his experience with God.
Reverted, yeah.
But one of the reasons he stated for turning to Islam was that because Arabs are associated with wealth and richness, and I was just thinking,
What?
Yeah, there's a clip. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen it, but I see it all the time.
Yeah.
I'm not Muslim, but part of me was thinking, this isn't the point of Islam.
Absolutely
I'm
not,
not even
yeah.
very well versed in the
Yeah.
teachings of Islam or
Yeah.
Muhammad. But I was
Yeah.
thinking that is just not the point.
Yeah,
It's not about
exactly.
material wealth.
What did he exactly say? That he was impressed by the wealth of.
He was drawn to the wealth of the Arabs. I'm just thinking,
I know this phenomena actually. I know, and it happens. It is happening right now in the UK a lot. A lot of Muslims, right? They want to move to Gulf and Saudi Arabia because of the wealth. They are attracted by the wealth, right? And I'm talking about Muslims, right? And they always speak about the perks of living in those societies, which partially makes sense. But if someone from outside the realm of Islam is getting impressed by the shiny stuff, that Arabs have and the wealth that Arabs have and want to convert to Islam just because of this reason. It's bullocks. It doesn't make any sense.
They're missing the point from the
Yeah.
jump.
And that's what I was thinking. Perhaps if people think this is the main attraction to Islam, could Islam get misconstrued and misperceived? And I don't know. Is there some implications for this if people are being drawn to Islam for these reasons?
Yeah.
For me, it was quite sad to see. 'Cause I
It
was
is.
thinking,
It is
that's
quite
not the-
sad.
That's not the point.
No.
That's just not the point.
Of course, yeah.
And I think, because I remember you told me last time that once a Muslim, you have to say he's a Muslim. You can never question his integrity.
Yeah.
However, with that point you mentioned, and with that other point that you said that not many people are converting to Islam, maybe for some different reasons. Even me, I've met so many people, white, English, French, turning to Islam. Even, for example, so Andrew Tate turned to Islam. And after that, Sneeko, he's like a Twitch YouTuber guy. He also converted
to Islam.
But it was like after Andrew Tate did it, he did it. But
Was he influenced by Andrew Tate?
I haven't spoken to him.
Yeah. No, but what does he say himself?
I don't know. He said
Okay, yeah. We can't question anyone's integrity.
Yeah, you cannot question. However, if I was to speculate, I would say he was influenced by that, and maybe he felt like it was the cool thing to do. Also, being part of this brotherhood, part of this brotherhood,
this new phenomena, Muslim brotherhood,
and not only a brotherhood, but this brotherhood that we mentioned that is rich and part of this Dubai life, Emirates. And it goes back to what we were saying. It kind of leaves you guys out, like Muslim Brotherhood. What about the Pakistanis and the?
In all honesty, we don't care about
and
this.
The Malays,
because maybe the people who didn't read Islamic history, maybe I don't know. Maybe they can get depressed by the lavish lifestyle of Arabs, right? But all of this shiny stuff, it doesn't impress me, at least individually, because I know the life of Arabs before they discovered oil and what they had to sacrifice to get this. Sacrifice meaning like being in bed with the West, like being their puppets. If you don't have your freedom, if you don't have your integrity in place, just having enough money doesn't count. And if you see Arabs, like what they did back in the day, I think in 70s when they made the petrodollar and stuff, they basically sold their souls, honestly, to America. They can't even speak against America. Till very lately, I'm hearing stuff now that MBS is rolling his eyes against America, but I don't think so. That could happen.
I don't believe it either.
Yeah, so I'm not very impressed. But yeah, even the people I know in Pakistan, they're not very impressed with Arabic lifestyle or Qatari lifestyle, or I don't know. Yeah, we know these shiny things happens in the cycle of time. This happens like if you are very close to someone, a higher civilization in a sense, like the civilization which has more military power and prowess, you basically sold your people to get along with them, and then you enjoy these perks. This happens a lot. This has happened a lot in the history. So to answer your question, this brotherhood, lavish lifestyle, Dubai stuff, it's of no use. It's childish behavior, I think.
I'd agree as well, but it's just hard. You don't want to dismiss anyone's faith, or I don't want to be a bigot. So
we can't challenge their integrity.
Yeah, I can't. I don't know them. I don't know their experiences. But from the outside, it just to me, it's like, it sort of dilutes, what Islam is about. If you're associating it with wealth and material things, to me, it's like guys didn't even, get the point. It's quite frustrating. But hey,
I agree.
Each to his own.
Yeah, it's sad.
Well, not to end on a sad note.
Yeah,
but Zain,
thank you very much for having me, Alex. And Dara,
Zain,
it was lovely.
It was absolutely lovely to go back and forth with you.
Yeah, thank you. It was amazing.